thank iWorkstation for inviting me to give this presentation to you. And I'm pretty excited about this and meeting you guys, because I know that the opportunities for the AECO sector in India are huge. So I'm glad you have taken the time to be here with us today. And before we begin with the presentation, I would like to start with a quick introduction about myself. So my name is Ricardo Torres. I am from Mexico. I'm actually an architect and founder of AESIS Arquitectura. We are an architecture firm specialized in energy-efficient homes design. So the goal of this is to help the construction industry to improve the building performance throughout its life cycle. So now I'm going to share my screen. I would like to share this amazing video that I want you all to see. So just one second, please.
1919, a remarkable year. The 100th anniversary of Bauhaus is soon upon us. The birth of the integration of architecture, design, new material, craft and art. A new objectivity is reinventing buildings for people to live, work and learn. Form follows function, with every element taken into consideration. This was the new revolutionary Bauhaus style. Walter Gropius inaugurated this doctrine in Weimar, the Manifesto of Bauhaus. The ultimate goal of all art is the building. From Weimar to the US, Asia and to the world, incorporating the concept into modern architecture, shaping the cities around the world. The masters of design and production have duly influenced the brightest minds of our time. The Bauhaus style has become one of the most influential currents in modern design, modernist architecture and art, design and architectural education. The power of computing and data availability in the cloud has brought us a new revolutionary concept of our times. The digital concept, physical follows virtual. The integration of the virtual into the physical engineering process. The spirit of Bauhaus continues in I2 4.0 with artificial intelligence, the first virtual engineer, McTwo. For the first time ever to visualize and consolidate the workflow of planning and building. To have all stakeholders anywhere, anytime, sharing insights and decisions on one single platform. Now the orchestra of builders and planners play in perfect harmony. We are running together to create the next generation of living, a manifesto created by 88 visionaries in Hong Kong. I2 delivers new thinking, new technology, and new working methods to transform construction to the most advanced industry on our planet. A new architecture form was born in 1919. Today, McTwo extends the Bauhaus 4.0 spirit, defining a new century for the building industry. Running together, we build the future for the next generation.
So, okay, I would like to introduce you to the topic of this session, which is going to be about real-time visualization and cost estimation for investment accuracy. And first of all, I'm going to take you to some stories about how architects here in Mexico are frustrated because of not having enough high-quality information to deliver to the client and ultimately to the builder in order for execute correctly. So you might know someone that is actually in that situation, because to be honest, the current scenario of the AECO industry is that even though BIM has been adopted in many countries so fast since 2015, 2010, we're kind of pretty on an early stage, even though BIM was actually implemented more than 20 years ago. So the thing is here is that I have talked to many architects here in my city and have found that they are always complaining about the information not getting right, or lots of mistakes during the design phase that then bring up during the construction execution. So the main problem is that they don't want to change the way they work. So that's why they are kind of frustrated about the information, but they don't want to do what it takes to change their mindset and adopt BIM as a regular workflow for the routine. So as a personal opinion, my frustration became when I started my own company actually back in 2011, because I just had some very basic knowledge on BIM, and I wanted to see how this methodology could help me be more efficient. So I started learning more, taking more courses with professionals, so I could develop a better strategy for my company to do well and provide high quality, accurate information. And just so you know, there's a report from the MBS organization in the United Kingdom that says that 700 out of 1,000 companies are currently using BIM. And this is because in the UK, as many of you know, BIM has been turned into mandatory for all public and private sectors. So if you want to deliver a project to the government, you need to do it in BIM. So this actually forces all the construction industry professionals to adopt BIM quickly so they can provide a more sustainable construction industry. So here's the deal. The mission of this talk, and actually the proposition, is that every professional in the AECO industry can increase their productivity by implementing BIM into their workflow. So just to start with, let me tell you how it all started. As I mentioned, I started my company in 2011. Just a few months later, I have just finished college. I decided to run my own business and see how it went. So even though I had already had some knowledge in Revit and some basic BIM information, I just did want to do it on my own to learn the hard way and see what the client was actually asking. So in 2013, I had the opportunity to build the first commercial complex here in my city, and I did it throughout. And what I mean by this is I coordinated the design build phase thoroughly, from conceptual design to construction administration, using some BIM knowledge on that. I used Revit throughout. But the most important thing I learned from that experience is that I could handle a whole team of professionals, structural engineering and all the labor, so I could get to know what exactly I needed in order to get a building right. So 4 years later, throughout the way, I joined an architecture firm here in my city, where I was responsible for the BIM implementation in that company. So was pretty much knowledge over there, because I was in charge of coordinating a whole team of professionals that actually didn't use BIM at all. So it was a huge challenge, because I thought that the hardest challenge was to implement BIM, but actually the hardest challenge was to let them know the benefits of BIM. I'm sorry, I just grab a little water. So as of now that I have the experience and have the expertise on board, we are starting a new phase of energy efficient homes design, because we want to get energy efficient buildings here in our country. Whether this is kind of a new topic here in Mexico, and it's been developed further in Germany or other countries in Europe and the US. But as we have seen the trends here in the construction industry, actually this is not lean and not sustainable. So we want to provide high quality projects so we can contribute to making a positive impact to the environment. So now the question, where to start off? Okay, so when it comes to BIM, you need to be very careful on not getting to modeling just right away, because there's no point on doing that if you don't have a structure, if you don't have a plan and the right methods and tools to get it done. So the first thing that you have to consider when implementing BIM is to use standards. And just so you know, there is an international standard that just has been released last December as a way to unify the whole industry around the world and make it easier for them to organize and exchange information so they don't get lost on the way, and we have a smooth transition from traditional CAD to the building information modeling. So let me tell you this. When I was working at the company here, I just identified that I needed to follow through these 5 steps in order to make the implementation successful. So the first thing was that I bumped into the standards, the office standards, something that was actually very challenging because they had a very strict standards from their CAD environment, but they actually wanted all of those standards being translated into the BIM environment. So that was kind of crazy because at the beginning I told them, okay, this is how you do things, but in BIM it works a little bit different. There might be some similarities between your CAD environment, but don't expect to have all of them within BIM. So that was the hardest part, to make them understand. And then it was to convince or to let people know about the benefits of this methodology. So in order to maintain accountability within the company, I had a talk with all the team about the benefits of BIM. I brought up some speakers from Zaha Hadid and some other international firms in order for them to see what other international firms are doing with this methodology. And as for integration, you need to have a plan and consistency to achieve a collaboration-oriented mindset, because BIM works as a collaboration tool. So if you don't have all the team integrated and on the same page, chances are that you might get lost in the process. So as for collaboration with other experts, of course, you need to bring them on board and make sure that they actually use BIM as a daily workflow. Not just saying that, okay, we model in Revit, yeah, but this is not BIM. BIM is further. It goes beyond. So there was another huge challenge for us at that company, finding the right collaborators. Man, here in our city, there are like 4 or 5 people that actually do BIM 100%. So probably it was not so hard to find them, but it is hard to get them into the market because there is lots of resistance in here to adopt BIM. And ultimately, we run some pilots before implementing the strategy. And one of the biggest mistakes I think we committed at the first time I started collaborating with this company was to implement BIM with a large-scale project, an institutional project that we were developing. We just mounted all in Revit and continued to develop it until the end. But the thing was that we hadn't tested at all the process and the methodology. So we got good results, but the thing was that we didn't include all the relevant information. So as a conclusion of this part, I can say that for a successful BIM implementation, you need to know your workflow before you start. Once you know your pain points, you can tackle them and define a strategy that will help you outline the path of success with this BIM implementation. So as for a company, we're actually looking at implementing the BIM ISO 19650 in order to make more room to design, analysis, and planning. Next thing with BIM is content. I have found that there are lots of generic content around there and we actually used generic content at the beginning because we didn't know where to look at. So the results we got were kind of generic because the level of detail was not accurate, so we were not getting the right information. So next step is to know what content you're going to use within your environment. And when you know clearly what content you're going to integrate into your projects, you can do it on a project-to-project basis. So it is all about looking for the manufacturer-specific content, or if there's no such thing, you need to find someone to actually create it. But the good thing about this is that once it is created, you can use it every time, and you will always have all the parametric information associated to that model, and will allow you to make decisions throughout the design stages. So 4 things that you have to consider when you create this real-world content is that it has to be accurate. Again, manufacturer specific. We don't build with generic content. When you go to a construction site, they don't build with generic things. They build with something which is actually provided by some manufacturer vendor that is actually fabricating that on their region. So you need to look for those products in order to make construction more efficient. Then it has to be documentable. I mean, when you provide information to the builder, they will look at the floor plans and say, okay, this is the content we received and this is how we're going to do this. But if they lack information, they will always call you back and say, hey, what's happening here? We don't have enough information to build this thing. So make sure always to have your content documentable. Add all the construction information needed in order for the content to be successful. And adaptability. This is one of the main and most powerful things that BIM has. All the content you create is adaptable. So you can have thousands of content within your assets, but at the same time, when you change a parameter, it all changes with the project. So lastly, achieving consistency is what is going to give you more detailed information for you, your team, and the people involved in the project. Now, you might be wondering, okay, I'm going to build 1,000 models, but where am I going to host them? Right. So there are lots of hubs available on the internet that can help you organize your content in a structured manner, so you don't have to be looking at folders every time or just being worried about where your content is going to be. It is important for you to decide what kind of workflow you're going to follow in order to choose the right hub to host all of your assets and have them accountable, and so you can just use it on a project-to-project basis. So just a quick question for you. PUBG wala hai kiya?
Yeah, Ricardo, people cannot understand what you want to say.
What was that?
They cannot hear you clearly.
I'm sorry, I didn't get it. The sound is not clear.
Yeah, it's not, you were not audible clearly. Am I audible now?
Okay. No, can you type it, please? Because I'm just getting some interference with your sound.
Yeah. He was asking, is there anyone here who likes to play PUBG? Yeah, you can raise your hand so that we get to know. Yeah. So there are few, like 3 to 4 people who used to play PUBG. Yes, Ricardo?
Okay. Yeah, anyway, yeah. So, all right, honestly, I haven't played this game. I just heard about that a few weeks ago. But the thing here is that just as that game has a mission, you have to remember that BIM has a mission as well. So the mission of BIM is to provide accurate information for the builders, the stakeholders, to make decisions throughout the life cycle of a project, and ultimately provide livable spaces for people to be in. so we can also contribute to making a positive impact to the environment. So that's why I think it is important to have a goal-oriented approach, because when we set up goals and we do everything what it takes to get them done, then we have the mission clear, and all the team can go along with that without any distraction. So also consider that building information modeling cannot be done without real world experience. So one thing that happened to me when I was actually working for a company back in 2010 was that I didn't want to be in the office at all, because I wanted to learn from the site, from the builders, from the contractors. I wanted to know how they were doing, what they were doing, and what were the obstacles they were facing off during the construction life cycle. So that actually gave me another insight and perspective on how to implement a better BIM into my practice. And now, let me tell you this. The title of this presentation is Real-Time Visualization and Cost Estimation for Investment Accuracy. So you might be wondering, how does that all relate to all the things that we have been talking about? Well, I realized quite ago that if we don't get to know how to structure a BIM methodology, it is not worth it to have a 3D visuals, an eye-catching rendering or a virtual tour with just general costs if we don't know how to properly implement all the information into the project. So what I came to know then is that what I needed was a resource management strategy. And this is about learning how to use all the elements you have available and use them correctly. So just a quick story, back on the firm I was working at last year, I was in charge of coordinating a project of an institutional for an institution here in Mexico, and we were like 9 people working on the same project, and so those resources, the human resources, were in my charge. I was responsible for them to deliver high quality work, and what I didn't know back then was that I needed first to know what their strengths were, so I could point them on the right direction. So I was just delegating tasks and letting them know what to do, but before understanding the strengths and what they actually needed to do. So just for you to not spend or waste time on tasks that actually don't give accurate information, you need to have and to dig deeper into the resource management system. So let me show you. Okay, is the video showing clear? If not, I can skip it and share it later. So as you can see in the video, this is how real-time information can be integrated into a BIM environment. So there's a huge potential for what is called 5D BIM, where there's a full integration of all the elements that affect a construction project. Now, the software, of course, is not magical and won't do anything you don't tell it to do. So you first need to have the experience and skills to handle the data so you can then turn that into accurate information. Let me tell you this. Currently, I have partnered with an experienced cost engineer in South America who has been implementing BIM to his practice for a while, and now he has the expertise to deliver accurate results for the building to be completed on time and budget. So that means that it actually adds up a valuable asset for all the projects my company will develop. So guys, I highly recommend you that you find a seasoned project manager and cost engineer to help you with the planning and forecasting decisions. So at this point, chances are that you're getting discouraged because of all the stuff that has to be done before getting to the 3D visuals we all like. But if you see this as a challenge to improve the way you work and refine your thinking, then you're getting the right mindset to approach BIM effectively. So next thing is creating a collaboration-oriented approach. Once you have all the things that we have discussed so far about the integration of the standards, about the content management, you need to put them in a way that you can exchange that information. Otherwise, there wouldn't be any point on creating all of that fancy stuff and valuable stuff if you don't have a way to communicate your ideas clearly. So when it comes to the execution again, you need to remember that information has a purpose. As we saw with the mission games and the AECO sector analogy, we find that there's always a goal to be achieved. The thing is that no objective can be achieved if not communicated effectively. So that's why the ultimate purpose of BIM is to send the right message to the right people at the right time. It's like playing a song where all the musicians have to play on time with certain rhythm and intensity, so the melody sounds exactly how it was meant to be. When some instrument fails to do so, the whole harmony gets lost and there's an extra effort to get things back on track. Same things happens with the information we generate on a BIM environment. We need to prepare before delivering. We must have a protocol for exchanging data so all the people involved are on the same page. And the advancements in technology has been allowing people to collaborate remotely with more tools to make better decisions and faster. In the AECO industry, the need for effective collaboration is paramount. There is no way to conceive a building done in one-man show. So then to achieve a collaboration-oriented approach within your practice, you need to establish a strategy and action plan to follow through systematically. If you set the rules of the game before letting the participants in, everyone will know how to play. So to conclude this part, let me just show you a final video on how all the things are integrated into a single platform to achieve effective communication and have full control on the project decisions roadmap.
Ricardo, you can increase your audio. Audible there? Not audible. He's actually trying to explain about the BIM 360 platform, like how you can collaborate in the cloud environment with different software tools like Assemble. Not to sit in a particular office, you can work virtually. There's a company named Rambol. You heard of it? Yes. Rambol, yeah. So they used to use the BIM 360 platform for most of their projects. They used to work only in the cloud environment, not as a standalone. So they have their own, yeah.
Okay, guys. So let me just. All right. So at this point, I actually didn't share any kind of virtual reality project or some spreadsheets full with numbers and concept about construction. And there's a reason why. I'm convinced that in order to get to this point about getting 3D visuals and real-time visualization, we need to understand all the background information that we need to get through before getting into that. So that's why it is important for you to have the right strategy, to follow through systematically, to continuously testing until you get to the right version of what your workflow will be. So fortunately, there are standards that will help you guys to achieve these results. You're not alone. I mean, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. If you want to get organized, I highly recommend you to check out the standards available in the market, as you will be able to integrate international protocols to your practice in order for you to exchange data around the world. So you are on the same page with someone in Singapore, Australia, anywhere, you name it. So I want you to take these three steps that I'm going to share with you next. This is kind of the takeaways that I would like you to take home, because none of the real-time visualization and cost estimation thing makes sense without taking into this 3 next action plan. So let me share. Okay, this is on the screen. So first of all, standards, guys, standards. And standards doesn't mean that you have to standardize your creative work. This is to standardize the way you exchange information, you generate and organize your information. This is the structure of your workflow. It doesn't have to do with creative standardization where you only have to do one thing in one way, but all the contrary. It is for you to have more time on design and the intellectual activities that will give you more pleasure at the end, and that you will have more time to spend with clients about presenting your idea in a clear way. Second thing, it is the resource management. If you're actually using BIM as part of your workflow, you will have found that if you don't have a right resource management, you can waste lots of time and money. You can lose lots of your most valuable resources if you don't handle your resources on time and budget. So lastly, the interoperability strategy. This is the protocol that is defined within the standards that will help you allow a collaboration-oriented approach within your practice. So you make sure that everyone is actually playing the same game. They understand the rules. They know how to ask. They know how to send data, and you know how to receive and send them back. So everyone can just track the roadmap of the project life cycle until it actually ends. So basically, this is what I wanted to share with you guys, as I know that the building information modeling opportunities in your country are huge. I have actually been reached out by lots of people from India that do BIM. And I was curious about that because actually, even though your country is working on establishing the standards for your region, you have lots of people that provide these services in a very high quality way. So they are internationally serving industries that are helping, that are needing BIM in order to make their construction process leaner and more sustainable. So I would like to take around 10 minutes, if you will, for the Q&A session. And prior to that, I want to thank you all for taking the time and your attention. So I really appreciate you guys.
Yeah, any questions from all of you? Any of you?
Sir, as I am working on net zero energy, can I get your number for guidance?
Can you get closer to the microphone or the computer, because the sound, it's not so clear, so I couldn't hear anything. Thank you.
Sir, as I am working on net zero energy concept, can I have your number for guidance?
A number of what? I'm sorry. Sorry, the sound is kind of terrible, guys. I'm so sorry. I don't know if it's my bandwidth, but can you please type the question so I can read through and answer it? Yeah.
Because she is actually doing a project on which topic?
Net zero energy.
She is doing a project on net zero buildings. So she was asking whether you can share your contact number.
Okay, my contact numbers, you said?
Yeah.
Yeah. So let me get this straight. So she's working on a net zero energy project, right?
Yes.
Okay. What type of building are you working on?
So basically it is net zero energy plus building.
But is it a residential or commercial?
Commercial.
It's a commercial building.
A commercial building. Okay. Well, all right. So actually here we have partnered with a company that specializes in energy efficient analysis, as well as lead and sustainable evaluations for the assessment of the building. So my recommendation is to first know what is the goal of the client and what the client wants to achieve with an energy efficient building. Sometimes it is just because of a trend, because of someone told them that, hey, this energy efficient thing is kind of catching up, so you should try it. But remember that the goal of energy efficiency is to provide a positive impact to the environment and a pleasant space for users to live in. So the usual workflow for achieving an energy efficient building would be, first, reach out the energy efficient experts. So they will lead you to the roadmap on getting this certified. For example, in our company, we're implementing passive house standards. This is one of the hardest and most challenging standards around the world because it is all about performance. If your building doesn't achieve performance throughout a year, well, it is not certified. Even though you might have designed it and built it with all the design criteria for those standards, but in the reality, it doesn't comply with that and actually doesn't perform as designed, well, you simply don't get it.
Okay. And any other questions from ma'am? Yeah. Any questions from the back? Sachin? Any other questions from the people who are watching it online?
All right. So, guys, I want to share you one last thing, and I think it is important for you to know this. If you want to know how to get Autodesk software full commercial licenses and don't pay anything, just reach me out at the end of the session, because I'm going to tell you how I contacted Autodesk in order for them to provide me with a full licenses of more than 40 products, so you can start designing right away without spending a penny on your design software. And you know, this is the most valuable asset a designer can have. So if you're interested in knowing how I did it, and I can share that with you just for your information.
Ricardo, so these will be the like commercial licenses.
What was that?
Is it the commercial license that you have like for 40 products? Okay, that's great.
Yeah, I use all
would like to have those. Everyone would like to have those.
I'm sorry, now there was lots of people talking. What was the question?
I was asking the other people, like, how many of you would like to have these kinds of commercial license in the software? So everyone put their hands up. Everyone wants it. Yeah.
Okay. So again, if I'm getting this straight, I'm sorry, but the audio is kind of terrible, guys. I don't know what is happening, but probably it is because of the bandwidth. Yeah, again, if you want to know how to get commercial licenses for free, Autodesk is providing that a program for you to take advantage of that and you know, start making a positive impact to the world. So this is actually how my company got all the software we needed. So we don't have to spend on a rental, on a monthly payment, on nothing for 3 years. And this is because Autodesk is committed to making more professionals and provide and gear them up with the technology so they can achieve their goals and make anything they want.
Any other questions from? Yeah, you had one question, right? Yeah, you can ask. Yeah, it's audible. You can speak.
All right, folks.
What is the scope of BIM in terms of building health report preparation?
Did you hear it? Was it audible to you, Ricardo?
No, I couldn't hear it, man. Yeah, can you please get closer to the microphone, please? Again, it's kind of pretty embarrassing, but I'm not getting your audio. I don't know what's happening.
Yeah, just a second. So yeah.
So my question was,
yeah, thank you.
Scope of BIM when we can, if we can use it for the preparation of building health report. So the input could be in terms of embedded sensor.
Okay, as for using educational product, so you are referring about using educational products, right?
No, he is actually talking about the healthcare project.
Okay.
Life cycle building report. We type it as well.
Yeah.
We can.
Ricardo, you just repeat me again the question.
Scope of BIM in terms of building health report preparation.
He is asking the scope of BIM in terms of building healthcare report preparation.
Building health.
Okay, the scope of BIM,
Yeah.
either for a residential, healthcare, commercial, anything, you first need to make sure that you have all of the client requirements on your list. And ultimately, you know, as the Dr. Amarnath said, you need to follow through a BIM execution plan in order for you to get the right content, the right thing, and what everyone is going to do at what time, how that is going to be delivered. So you, again, this is about a structure. Every time you start a project with BIM, you need to follow through a protocol. It can be your own standard, or you can, again, get backed up by the international standard that is actually released for you to buy and, you know, implement it into your practice. So does that respond to your question?
Yeah, he has just texted you on the WhatsApp. Can you check it?
Guys, actually, I think that if you could type it, it would be easier for me because the audio here is terrible. Again, I don't know if this is my hardware or language. Okay, thank you very much.
Yes.
You're using the camera slide?
Yes. Did you got the questions?
Yeah, so the last question was about the BIM in building health, what we were talking about, report preparation and fetching input from embedded sensors, regular checkups. Okay, so here actually, again, I'm not an expert in the healthcare industry, but I have heard that this facility management can be done by doing what is called the occupancy evaluation or assessment. Actually, I have partnered with some company in the US that does, you know, the whole scanning thing, and they export that information into a BIM environment so they can get accurate occupancy assessments. So for the leaser to know how many people can be at that building and how that needs to be operated. This is kind of a great thing because not many people are doing occupancy evaluations, and they just come up with the building without knowing exactly how many people can be operating within that building. So I think it is important for you to know that there is a strategy for doing that. It is not an easy way, although, because it needs a team of experts to bring in. So, but by regular checkups, what do you mean by that? It means I'm not getting that straight.
People go for the evaluation, right? The building.
The people usually go to the evaluation on site, and like how the people will evaluate it on site.
Why don't you text it because he sent it on
Just during this term, structural integrity, you will probably get it.
Okay.
Instead of misunderstanding as healthcare. When you're talking about healthcare.
Yes, just actually on board.
Structural integrity.
Yeah.
Okay, so you refer to the structure of the building itself, right?
Yes.
So here's the thing. Back then, 1 year ago, I was actually talking with a structural engineer here in Mexico who does OpenBIM using Tekla software to be integrated into the Revit environment. And they do, for achieving consistency and integrity within the structural analysis, they actually design first in Tekla because it is a more powerful tool than Revit for structural engineering. So they then use the protocol of data exchange within Revit, within Tekla and Revit, so they don't lost information along the way. So that's how they actually secure that all the parameters, all the information integrated into the model, into the structural model, is within the Revit environment now, and you avoid the loss of important information that can. Okay. Okay, thank you.
Yes. So, any more questions for Ricardo? No? So yeah, that's it. Ricardo, you can finish the session, conclude the session.
Yeah, guys, thank you very much for tuning in. Really grateful for this opportunity. Honestly, I was a bit nervous because this is my first international presentation I give. So if you want to get in touch with me, I can share more resources for you to start your practice. Again, with zero budget, if you want to start designing and using Autodesk Cover, I can tell you how to do that. So please feel free to reach me out on email or just drop me a message on WhatsApp. Whatever you want, I will be there for you. Thank you very much and I appreciate you.
Thank you, Ricardo.
Thank you, guys. See you later.
So, any questions for me?
Thanks for setting this up.
Yeah.
Thank you. So tomorrow we have a session of Viktor, then Ashwani Kumar Jha, Petro Karanxha, and Mojtaba from Istanbul. So tomorrow we'll see you, and whatever the discussions and questions you will have, we can discuss it now. Thanks to all of you. Thanks to people who are joining online. Thank you. We'll see you tomorrow.
Just to answer your question on the